Dave,
Sean,
what time of year is it?
it's Christmas time,
What
Sean.
happens at Christmas?
I eat too much and I never get the presents I want.
Okay, what else happens at Christmas?
What else happens at Christmas? You see a lot of friends and family.
That's true. If we were specifically thinking about video games, what happens? Specifically PC video games.
People get a lot of brand new games that they don't really know how to play.
People get lots of new games and they don't know how to play it. So
Yeah.
we've been thinking that we're going to have a lot of new players of Intelligent Design, and it's kind of a complicated game. Is
It
that
looks
fair to say?
complicated. Yeah, I think so. It looks complicated to me, Sean.
So we thought we'd make a video explaining how it works. So do you think we should introduce ourselves?
Yeah. Why don't I go first?
Go
I'm
for
going
it.
to jump right in. So my name's David Towsey, and I'm a member of the team here at Pillbug, and I'm a lecturer at a university, and I write novels on the side.
Cool. What kind of novels?
Zombie westerns, Sean. Zombie westerns. I've pretty much cornered that niche of the market. That's all to myself.
Cool. So I'm Sean, and I made this game, and you can tell, I'll prove it, because I click the credits. You can see that's me. And you joined Pillbug like 2 or 3 months ago now?
Yeah, that's right.
Kind of after playing this.
Yeah, it was. Meeting you and playing the game, and having a good chat about what it is you wanted to do with Pillbug. It all sounded really exciting, so I thought I'd get a piece of that action.
So the way we're going to do this is that you're going to ask me questions as if you don't know anything about the game.
That should
And
be
I'm going to
pretty
play
easy.
it. We've put a guide up on Steam. So there's a Steam guide that's like an official here are all the genes. And well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but should I just start a game? The first thing I'm going to say is I think a lot of people miss this, but there's actually 3 maps. So when you click these areas, you're actually picking some maps. I quite like the third ones. They're all very different.
Okay.
And they work.
I didn't know that about the game.
Yeah. So there you
So
go.
that's-
There's 3
I'm
different
already
maps.
learning.
And if you
learning.
look at the menu screen, watch.
Uh-huh.
Can you see how the menu screen changes?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So there's pretty subtle stuff, but I'm not.
So what is that in the background, Sean?
This is. I'm not going to say what that is actually.
You're not going to give me the answer to that question.
No, that question is not.
Okay.
We're not there yet. Maybe in a
Okay,
year.
all right.
So it's been about a year
Congratulations on your
since.
appointment
I'm going to just
ecosystem
skip the
engineer.
tutorial.
That's a useful button to know where it is, though. If people do want to skip this.
Yeah, so something right. So let's talk controls then straight away. So I'm using the keyboard and mouse. I originally designed this game to be controller only, but that is a bad idea on a PC. So this game is meant to be relaxing. It's meant to be a lean back experience. Like you're meant to be in your couch, kind of like leaning back with a controller, relaxed. But people like to play with keyboard and mouse, and I made a control system with that, and actually I end up playing it with that more than I do controller now. So if you hold down C, so it's WASD to move around, Shift goes up, Control goes down, and then if you hold C, you get the mouse cursor, and that's how you navigate menus. So you go here, and you can skip the tutorial.
Okay.
And that will start every time you play a new game. So this is like the third world, which is much flatter. Also, all the worlds have a different climate and stuff too. So they are different. So I'll start out by spawning some plants, and if you have any questions, just interrupt me.
Yeah. Well, why are we starting with plants?
Well, we're starting with plants because they are what are called the primary producer of the ecosystems here. So. In this
what's
game-
happening there, Sean? Tell me
Okay.
what's going on now.
So controls wise, I'm using the mouse wheel to go up and down here to select plants, and then when I want to place some plants, I point at the ground where I want them to appear, and then this little wormhole appears,
Okay.
and
That
who
looks
knows
cool.
where that's coming from,
Uh-huh.
and then there we go. I was quite happy with that effect actually. That took quite a while.
Yeah. So what's the deal with the little trails for those things that are falling from the sky? They look almost like they're on fire or something, but they're not.
So, no, these are seeds. I
Uh-huh.
put the trails in kind of so you could see them from far away. So
Oh yeah.
if I'm all the way over here,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's too far.
Mm.
I'll start back here. So that'll go. So yeah,
Okay.
you can see, you can just about see them,
Yeah.
but also I think it kind of looks cool.
Yeah. But also, I noticed, Sean, that they are spawning where you want them to spawn, but then the seeds are going somewhere else. So
Yeah.
what's happening there?
So the whole game has wind in it.
Oh, okay.
So these are being blown around by the wind. So you don't have full control. Some people don't like that, but I think that's an important part. That kind of is what the whole game is about not having full control.
Uh-huh.
I think that's one thing I'm going for. The one thing I was going for with this game was to try and make you feel not entirely in control. You can kind of poke at it and push it in a direction you want it to go,
Yeah.
but you never have full control.
And presumably, if you get really good at figuring out the wind direction and the strength and the speed of it, you'll be able to, figure that out and have them land where you want them to land,
Yes.
roughly anyway.
Yeah. So, for example, one of the other systems in this game, buildings. So I can use the number keys on the keyboard to switch between my menus up here.
Ah, okay.
And then mouse wheel down. So a collector collects this thing called biomass, and biomass is your main currency in the game. You can see it up here. So biomass. I've got 500, which is kind of hinting at you that you need to buy a collector, which is 500. And this is showing where it will collect stuff from. So this building will start to collect biomass, and you can see it's happening here. And it collects it from a couple of places. It collects it from the environment, and it collects it from all the plants nearby. So within that radius that you saw.
What radius is that? Sorry, Sean.
So if I went like this, so now I can see the radius,
okay.
and I can see actually on here how much it's collecting if I stay on the right side. So I might want to create some plants to go in there. So I can just kind of like try and guess. I thought that the wind was going in this direction, I think.
We'll soon find out.
But it will have moved, right? So the wind is constantly changing. There's kind of a rough... Yeah, so that... I got close.
Yeah.
But I usually just do a couple like that. I know it's roughly in that direction, so hopefully some of these will
And
fall.
the game likes you spamming plants, for instance. It's
free.
With the idea. Yeah.
So there was a stage when I was making it where plants did cost money. But it was quite frustrating because at the moment we can make random plants, and so I mentioned that we made that guide for the genes.
Yes.
Well, there are a whole bunch of genes. Did you say you had the guide open?
I do have the guide
So,
open.
how many genes are there in for a plant, for example?
Well, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 11.
Okay, so there's 11 genes. And every time I'm creating one of these, I'm getting a plant with a random set of genes. So that's like a huge...
Each one of those wormholes plant things coming through, they're now growing on the ground, have separate sets of genes.
Yeah, so each group... So, this group will be different to this group. There'll be a random set. So you can imagine, the possibility space, how many different possible plants there are is massive.
Yeah.
And some of them will just probably die straight away because that's kind of how it would work. So
yeah,
there might be combinations of those genes that just they can't survive. So when you're charging money for that, or charging biomass or whatever the currency in the game, you can imagine that would get quite frustrating if you spend money on a random thing and it just died straight away. So that's why I took that out, and it made the game a lot better. And you can just kind of spam them pretty much and watch them. I mean, you don't really want to just spam because these plants are competing against each other.
I see.
So they're all competing for the same resource.
What resource is that, Sean?
So that is biomass, and so you can see here. Well, it's kind of humidity. I called it humidity here. That affects them. Wind speed, you can see it here as well, and there's a temperature. and I can't actually remember what the temperature does, but I know it does something. Yeah.
That's great. Okay. And then we access those in the menu there under graphs.
Yeah, so if you've got a controller, you can kind of go through and select them with A, but you can just left click.
Okay, great.
So if you look at the top, I've got like loads of biomass now. So
Yeah.
If you ever lost of what to do, then down in the bottom corner, there are these key performance targets.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is build a research station, so let's do that. So that's the other type of building.
Okay.
Now, research stations, they will research these plants or any animals, organisms within the range of that circle.
Okay.
So I can build one here.
They're not big circles, are they? You have to be
No.
quite specific about where you want to go.
They're quite small, but if I mouse over here, you see I can upgrade it. So again, I'm going to get my cursor with C. I'm actually not sure that the cursor is being recorded, but don't worry too much. So I'm pushing C to get a cursor, and then I can click on it. It will upgrade.
And the circle
radius
around it gets bigger.
increases, and also the rate at which it gets science increases. So I can see there that this is getting 0.6 plant science per second. So if there was herbivores in this circle, you'd be getting that herbivore science.
Okay, and is science another resource then?
Yeah, so science, if we click on science, this is showing us this stuff. Now, have you heard of games like clickers?
No, I haven't actually. No. What's a clicker?
So a clicker or incremental games or idle games, they're a really niche. Well, I guess they're not really niche anymore. That Cookie Clicker is a good example. Have you played that?
No, I haven't.
So I'd recommend doing it. It's kind of like taking a game like Diablo and just removing all the game and just having it you click. So in Cookie Clicker you're creating cookies, and a left click will create a cookie. And then eventually you can use cookies to unlock things that make cookies faster. And so then each click gives you more clicks. Right? So this is kind of what's going on with this system. So the research station, every time it upgrades it, it starts getting more science per second. And that is going to increase the science I'm getting down the bottom. That also increases how much biomass I'm getting, because you get paid for the science, the research you do. Like there's some kind of mysterious organization paying you for all this stuff. So you get more money, and then you can use that to build more research stations, which means you get more science, which means you get more money. And it's meant to be that kind of feedback.
Okay, I see.
And you use science to unlock genetic engineering stuff. So as you unlock things, I'm going to upgrade this again. So as you unlock things, then you can start, instead of just creating random plants, you can start actually creating plants with your own genes. So you can pick a gene.
Okay, all right. But already quite a lot has happened and changed in this world since we've just been talking. Some of these plants have grown quite tall, some of them haven't.
Yeah.
Some of them are all over the place.
So that they all will spawn seeds. So the way the plants work is every so often, if they've got enough food, if they're old enough, depending on their genes, they will throw out another seed, and that will fly through the wind and land somewhere and then grow.
And we won't necessarily, can we see that happen if it's going to happen, or is it just a matter of just
You'll see it because you'll see the seed. So it is actually a physics thing, right? So there's no cheating. This is a seed will pop off the top and fly through the wind. So there's a few genes that affect that. If you read the guide, the guide tells you what every gene does, or what we think it does. Some people prefer to figure that stuff out themselves, but if you don't, it's all there for you. It's something that I kind of resisted doing for a while because I wanted people to try and figure it out. But I think, in a way, it's an impossible task. People have got pretty close. Yeah. But there's just so much variation that it's really tricky. So
I can see that a couple of those are to do with seeds from the guide, so that's useful to know.
Yes.
It'd be nice if we could see it happen on the video, but I appreciate you've got to be there at the right time.
One just happened here. I don't know if you
Oh,
might have missed it.
I missed it, but maybe
Yeah,
the video.
one of these
call,
guys did. So if you're watching the video, rewind. I'll stop here because they might. So
might all be ready to blow.
I've got a science unlock.
Okay.
So I can click on the science thing and I can unlock. It says I've got one plant lock unlocked. So I'll just click on it and that will unlock it. And then now, in my genetics, I can select. I've unlocked one gene.
Okay.
Okay, and now I can control this one. Yeah. So I can control the height. So I'm going to make tall plants because, like, why not? So let's just make a bunch. Now, because I've only unlocked one, that's the only gene I'm fixing. The rest of the genes are going to be completely random.
Okay.
So it's about kind of slowly gaining a bit more control. So all these plants are going to be the same height.
Yeah.
If they reach that height, that is. I mean, they might not. If they don't have enough food and they don't live long enough, they won't. And also I can actually, if you look at, you see it says inspected plant?
Where does it say that from?
Above the custom plants.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm putting my mouse over this plant and it's telling me what the height of that plant is, or what the maximum height is.
That's the maximum height?
Yeah, that's the maximum height it can grow to.
2.25, okay, I see.
So yeah, so go on.
But one thing you can't, because just picking up on something you said earlier, you've just created a load of plants up there with the maximum height gene.
Yeah.
But you can't control how much food there are for those plants, can you?
No.
So you don't know it's not about making sure that every plant you put to seed, as it were, grows. You've just got to hope that some of them do, and they already are. Already, some of them are going nuts, and some of them are actually struggling to grow. So
yes. It could also be that some of the plants. See, there's a seed coming off these ones.
Oh yes, yeah. Okay.
So some plants, they might have a really long lifespan, so they might last a very long time, and if that's the case, they will grow quite slowly.
Okay.
So they might appear. You might think, oh, these guys aren't very tall, but it's just they might have a really long lifespan.
So for a new player who's coming to this game, I wouldn't necessarily realize how much is going into making the decisions of why some of those plants that you created at the same time with the same genes, or what felt like the same genes, actually had very different results.
Yeah.
So that's really useful to know.
Yes. Yeah, and I think some people can find that frustrating. I think.
Well, it's. I guess it's a sense of just it's that not knowing something, isn't it? And if you know that you're not supposed to know things, that's okay. But if it's just a kind of a basic not knowing.
There was a lot of I had to think a lot about that when I was trying to even market this game and as such, because this idea of, well, the game is designed for you not to know, but some people will say, oh, well, you've designed, you're being lazy or something. But
so I'm seeing some of these tall ones disappear here, Sean. Sorry to interrupt. What's going on there? They just die.
They're dying for some reason.
Okay.
So they could be dying of old age. They could have just not got enough food. These plants might be sucking food out of them. So you can see this one just spawned a seed.
Yeah.
Which is actually really slow. And they won't necessarily spawn seeds of the same species. They'll be mutating. So there's a mutation that's going on. And there's actually radiation in the game. So these buildings give off radiation, and so plants closer to these buildings are more likely, or plants and creatures will mutate more near this building.
Okay.
Yeah. So something I will just mention, I've unlocked everything in the game, and when you unlock everything, when you complete all these targets, you unlock this time acceleration mode.
Oh, okay.
So now I can actually speed up the time up to 5 times. And I do warn you that this game is it's running a pretty intensive life simulation. So when you put the speed up, you might find it struggles a bit, but because we've got quite a small world at the moment, we're kind of doing okay. But you can see, I turn off some of the effects to try and help with that. But you can start to see then these plants spread down the hill a bit better, grow quicker. It's kind of meant to be a reward for players who are really into it. So a lot of players got into trying to build these worlds and go through the score table. So every night, you can see in the top right, underneath my world efficiency and score, it updates your score, and then I can see the person who's above me and below me.
So that's a leaderboard.
Yeah, that's like the global leaderboard.
Okay.
So of course,
But most of the time, we wouldn't be seeing a biomass go quite that crazy.
no.
This used to. Okay, so it'd be much slower paced.
Yeah, it's meant to be a relaxing game. It's almost like the way of the audio design, the graphic design. It's all about trying to make you just chill out.
Okay. How tall can how many upgrades can we get on that science?
There's no limit.
Oh wow!
You can just keep going. So there's kind of a trait. There's like a question here of like, is it better for you just to put all your money into one of these things, or do you build several?
Okay.
And that question becomes more complicated when you start bringing in herbivores. So let's bring in some herbivores. So I'm going to put a few. I'm trying to think. So the herbivores will eat the plants.
Right.
So I need to be careful.
Yes, that's what they do.
Yeah. So these, I imagine, this is where they're spreading up here. So I don't really want to put. I'm going to put some here. Right. How many? We've got 140 plants at the moment.
Okay.
And there's.
I don't want to
5
see all those
herbivores.
get eaten straight away.
Yeah, I'm going to only create 5 because I want to be. I think. Yeah, I don't want them to just eat everything.
No.
So I've got another science unlock. So also every so often you'll get a general unlock. So the top bar is just whatever science you unlock, whatever science adds this total bar, and then you get to pick what you want. So even though I've not done any research into herbivore science, now I can pick a herbivore gene. So now I've unlocked.
They're chomping through it very quickly. Look at them go.
Yeah.
So what did you unlock? Sorry, I interrupted.
I unlocked an herbivore gene. So you have it every so often. You have like a choice of what you can unlock. So you don't have to just unlock the one you've researched. But what this shows is that the herbivores and the carnivores are much more difficult to research because they move.
Yeah, they're going all over the place.
So I can put this guy here, and it will start to see it's starting to get some herbivore signs. And you can unlock every gene with just by researching plants through that choice that I told you about. So through the total signs. But some of the achievements you need to unlock you need to unlock the specific ones.
Okay.
But yeah, so these work this similar way, so that they're eating biomass from the plants.
And so it's interesting. Some of the plants take a lot longer for them to eat than others.
Yeah.
So is that because, in a sense, they're getting fuller, or is it more that the genes of the plants are affecting that?
It could be a bit of both. It could be the genes of the plants, because this one, maybe this one is doing really well. If you look at it, it's kind of on its own. So if you draw a circle around this particular plant, there's no more plants around it. Whereas the ones over here were kind of clustered, so they were getting not only eaten by the herbivores, but actually eaten by the other plants. If that makes sense. So they were, yeah.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
So, right, I've got some spare biomass, so I'm going to start upgrading some of this stuff. So you've played the game, obviously.
A little bit, yeah, but I mean, even I'm learning a lot already.
Yeah. Yeah, probably should have put a spoiler warning on here before we started. But, okay, the other thing you can do, these things are radar stations, what we call. So they're quite expensive. They're 10,000 biomass. But these actually limit where you can build. So you have to be within range of one of these to build a building, and even to like place some plants or anything. So they kind of expand your influence because, well, the wind and the fact that once you've created your plants, you're kind of out of control of them. And your creatures, they can move outside this area. But if you want control, you have to build more of these things.
Okay, so the animals and the plants, they don't mind about that, but we do.
Yes, okay. Unless you enable this force field.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So so what a lot of people do when the game first came out, and you can go on the Steam like screenshots and see this. They would set up a bunch of these and you can also control the size of this force field.
Oh.
And they would set up cages and try and do experiments to figure out what all the genes are by having different species in each cage. And just experimenting, and that was kind of cool that was happening. I didn't even think that was a thing, or
it wasn't something you necessarily thought players would do so, on their own kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I didn't expect it. So I'm going to do another herbivore plant.
Okay.
So
can we see what genes we've got for herbivores now then?
So we've got maximum speed and turning speed.
Turning speed.
So we could just put both of them up. Now, with the genetic engineering, like I've not limited you on what you can do. So again, some of the things might give you really weird behavior, and I've had people say to me, "Oh, this is bugged out," but actually, they just created some really weird stuff. So these guys are going to be super fast, so you can barely see.
So that's a lot of herbivores.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. I'm going to build some more plants around here. So yeah, these guys should be super fast.
Yeah, look at how quickly they turn.
You wonder if they're so fast they can't actually even, they're just bumping over this. So they have to make contact with the plant to eat it. A lot of everything that's going on in this game is actually physics. So it's all being simulated. They need to make contact with each other. Okay, can you see what's happening here?
No, what's going on there? I can see the effect, but what is it?
That's fire.
The fire?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now these plants are all on fire, and obviously it's spreading pretty quickly. So I think I remember now that's what the temperature affects.
Okay.
And also maybe the wind. It doesn't harm the actual creatures, but it will kill your plants. So I know some people posted videos showing that their plants were just constantly on fire and they couldn't understand why. And what they'd actually done, I'm going to cheat actually, I'm going to go to system. So this is proper spoiler, so if you don't want to see all the genes, don't go beyond this video. So if I click research all genes, again, once you've unlocked the genes once, you can just research them at any time on any map. So people were creating plants and they were looking down here and they were saying okay, maximum biomass, I'm going to set this really huge. So I'm going to set that really huge. I'm going to do the thing that people did. And then they'd also do something which I'm not doing. They'd look at the root range and they'd set the root range absolutely huge as well. Now what that meant was they had these big fat plants that would just burn forever, and their roots were so big the whole map was covered. Now the fire spreads through the roots.
Okay.
So you can see these guys are huge.
Yeah.
And kind of, you can see the effect. It's kind of a bit funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you could even, I know some people have managed to get these plants that are so big that herbivores are almost completely just can rely on this one plant.
So those, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say those are some of our slow herbivores.
Well, they're probably slower now because they've eaten.
Okay.
So they've got nothing to worry about. They're just kind of moseying around.
Yeah.
And are done.
So do herbivores avoid? This sounds silly, but do herbivores avoid the plants that are on fire?
They don't really care about fire.
Okay.
That's something I thought about adding to the game, but just kind of never got around to it. When they're not hungry, they avoid plants because they're obstacles, and there's some genes that affect that. But if we want to see them go full speed, we can create some carnivores.
Yes. Okay.
Carnivores work in a kind of similar way to the herbivores, but they have to actually eat the herbivores, and the herbivores are moving, so that's much more difficult. So it's much more tricky, or it's harder to get good carnivores for sure.
Okay. So they've already, they're tackling that one on its own, aren't they? They've separated it from the herd, and now they're taking it down.
Yeah. So you can. So this is all the AI in here is based on like flocking behavior, and you can actually get some like really like complicated kind of things behavior like that. Like they will, like some of the carnivores will just track a herd at a distance and wait until last minute and strike, and it's all from like some really simple rules. But I think that's, for me, that's what I like about this. That's what interests me is simple rules leading to really complex behavior.
Yeah,
which is definitely what this game is.
Well, it's kind of, without getting too sciencey about it, it feels that that's how the natural world works, isn't it? It's fairly simple rules, but very complex behaviors.
Yeah, and so the idea is that you do this. I mean, if I was, so also the carnivores eat eggs, so something that we probably won't see because it takes a while is that the creatures, they will have eggs, so they will lay. There's females and males.
Okay.
The females will lay eggs, and the males then have to fertilize those eggs, which is not how it happens anywhere in nature, but that seemed like an easy way of doing it.
I guess don't fish do that?
Well, I suppose so.
Lay eggs.
Maybe.
And,
yeah. Okay. So we're saying this is some alien world. So
some alien logic going on.
Yeah. So these guys, I think, have had children. Yeah. So you can see there's eggs here. So this egg, and so you can see there's a tiny guy there who is probably going to starve because there's no plants around here. So I'll try and make some plants. And also, like, herbivores of different species can then, like, one species can lay this egg and another species can fertilize it, and then you get genetic crossover. And that's how you get evolution. And it really is, like, there's no tricks. That's what's happening in the game, is that you're getting this genetic crossover. So yeah, so that's kind of the game in a nutshell.
Okay.
So
it certainly seems a lot to just kind of keep on top of if you want to start making things more complicated. But obviously, you can do that at your own pace with the game, like how you.
Yeah. So you can. Once you've unlocked that time acceleration, like that's what you can do is you can start just creating stuff and just use time acceleration to speed things up. But yeah, some people like to just very slowly build an ecosystem. Like I've done it too fast here. I think this one's really struggling. So if I look at the graphs, like you can see, you can see there the plant population, and then as soon as I put those herbivores in, it killed the plant population. But hopefully those carnivores are in, so that'll help. But it is a lot of that. It's like, it's just super chill, and hopefully something that people find interesting. I mean, I know people find it interesting.
I mean, it's not a game that everyone wants to play for hours and hours, but there will be lots of people who are really interested in playing around with the genes of their plants and their herbivores, and just like you say, having it on in the background sometimes, checking on your ecosystem.
It's a good second screen game, I think. That's what a lot of people tell me, is that they just have it kind of sitting on the second screen and they poke at it. I mean, last Christmas it's almost a year. Do you know it's a year roughly since I launched the game?
Like an anniversary.
Yeah, I realised that today actually. And we I had some friends over for New Year's, and we actually, they wanted to see what I was working on. We just left it on the TV downstairs. Every so often as we walked past it, someone would pick the controller up and just do something.
Yeah, that's great.
It was almost like a screensaver. Like it was this kind of collective gaming thing, like I wouldn't go as far as calling it co-op, but yeah. No,
but that's a nice way to take something that isn't necessarily a social game and make it social.
Yeah,
that's a really nice idea.
So yeah, so what we'll probably do is we're currently running a guide competition. So if you're watching this as a seasoned intelligent design veteran, thank you for supporting the game. Super thank you. But also we are running a competition for writing guides, because we know we're going to have a lot of new players over the next month or so. So if you want to write your own guide and put it on Steam, and then in February we'll be looking at the highest ranked ones, and you'll get a copy of our next game, Cycle 28. And I'm sure we'll be making a video about that very shortly.
Indeed, yeah.
So
fantastic. Well,
Thanks.
thank you, Sean, for kind of walking us through intelligent design.
No problem. So until next time.
Okay.